Hey guys, Lola Selena here. I also go by Island Turtle. Welcome to BOMISpirit. We're doing another impromptu live. I didn't realize the camera would be so close. I'm used to this like zooming me out. So let me just adjust this for a minute. Also trying to keep this in a pretty decent spot so it doesn't just like tip over. Okay, there we go. Hey guys, I'm pretty sure I made this public. Sometimes it takes a little bit for it to catch up. Also, it's a rainy day today, so we'll see how the tech holds up and if you guys can see me okay. Hey Blue, hey, hello. I wanted to hop on here just to, just kind of discuss some of the energies that are going on right now and some of the energies of the week. My patrons already have the full rundown. We did our sit down for the weekly over the weekend. But let's see. So good to catch you live. Hello, hi. What a beautiful scene. Oh, I probably will show you guys like more of what my actual view is at some point. It's, the last couple times we've been live over here. I'm in the same spot, by the way. It was nice actually to just kind of like sit here with you guys, enjoy nature with you guys as we spoke. I did not want to knock this into the water. Okay. Let me come back in the comments here. Happy Monday. Yes, happy Monday. Happy Monday. But yeah, let's talk about some of the energies that we got going on this week. So again, my patrons already got the rundown. If you're curious about Patreon, you can go ahead and check it out and see what we got going on over there. We also got some noise coming in. We are outside, so just bear with me as a giant fairy comes by. But I would say that a couple big themes that are happening this week. Learning from the past. We always learn from the past. That's just kind of like a baseline thing, involving life. Weekend was super heavy. Love the water sound. I know, it's so soothing, right? We're always learning from the past. It's just a given, living in this world as a human being. But there's probably going to be a lot highlighted for some people this week in terms of that. And it doesn't have to be arduous. It doesn't have to be this super heavy thing. For some people, obviously it's going to be, and I saw a couple comments. Some of you probably did have a little bit of a heavy weekend. Some of you, I think, were kind of feeling the energies ahead of time. We all feel energies in different ways at different times, right? Even if we're all exposed to the same energy. Excuse me. But a couple astrological reasons as to why the past is coming up. So this week, Jupiter is getting comfortable in its square to Chiron. Again, sorry for the noise. I can't really tell what you guys can hear or not hear, to be honest. The water sounds in the background are amazing. Yeah, I love this spot very much. It really is perfect. There's really nothing about it I like that is not perfect. But anyway, let's come back. But Jupiter is getting into a very comfortable square with Chiron. And when I say comfortable, I mean comfortable. So Jupiter's in Cancer, Chiron's in Aries, right? And because of where they're at in their retrograde cycles, we're going to have this square between Jupiter and Chiron for the rest of the year. It's going to peak at a couple moments. I keep reading the dates, they keep eluding me, but once in October and once in November, we're going to have 2 days where they go exact. And I feel like we're going to have a third in January. I got to double check that. But don't get too worried about Jupiter squaring Chiron in terms of anything being difficult. It's actually really nice that it's with Jupiter versus another celestial body. So the way that can feel is these things can bubble up internally, or we can be confronted with these things externally. This Chiron, insecure, fearful, wounded energy. Limitation is the big word here. Limitation is a huge word here. I brought a pen and paper for timestamps, but to be honest, I think I'm just gonna like free flow, so just enjoy. It's just easier for me to just be in the flow here, because I feel like I'm starting to get a download about this with limitation. I feel like that's something as like a second theme here for some people in the collective this week. There's a South Node energy tied to that. I can sense that, and we'll get deeper into that in a minute. But limitation, Jupiter square Chiron is going to help a lot of people really break through their own self-imposed limitations. But some of these things can go very, very deep in the root of us, the root of self, even like the root chakra physically in the body. But the reason the past is so... What waves are kicking up? Just gonna enjoy that for a minute. the reason that the past is such a big theme here with some of these things, you guys, I'm really close to the water right now. I'm super close. And the tide is also high as well. Anyway, Cancer. Cancer is the innate, like, zodiac IC, right? It is the 4th house. You know, obviously we all have our own natal charts, right? But Cancer in and of itself does represent the past. It represents the root. It represents the cosmic womb, even to an extent. But that is also why Jupiter being in Cancer is kind of exasperating this like old past energy in this square to Chiron. So we're starting to feel it this week at the tail end of eclipse season, which is like that's how it makes me feel, like, huh. And we'll get into how that plays into the old energy, past energy as well. So anyway, coming back, so with this week starting to feel the square again, we're going to be in this for a couple of months, but as the past comes up again, some of these things are just really, really old, really, really deep, and even as they come up, it's, I think for some people it's going to be more like glimpses. The waves are so loud. I feel like that's a good analogy for just like how things can feel internally with some of this square energy. It feels like glimpses to me. That's how it feels. It feels like getting confronted with really, really, really old past and even patterns in, yeah, just glimpses and windows, like fleeting. But Jupiter square Chiron also helps us to see things from a higher mind, from that bigger perspective, to break the limitation that has come with some of those patterns and some of those old past wounds, insecurities, fears, emotions, memories, etc. Okay, some of you may experience this almost as like constipated emotion. Some of this may even feel very like physical as you're moving through it. And again, this isn't for everybody. Some people are going to feel this more than others. I would say especially if you have any angles or personal planets that are like 20 to 25 degrees cardinal signs, like Cancer, Aries, Libra, Capricorn. Or if you have any stelliums in those signs, I would say you'd really feel this prominently. And also with the fact that this is starting like right at the tail end of eclipse season, it's gonna feel a little dense and a little intense right now because we did just have this south nodal eclipse, even though it was a new moon. And there's also some energy with this week with that too in terms of Virgo. But when we go through a south nodal eclipse, whether it's a full moon or a new moon, it's going to bring up patterns. It's going to bring up the past. It's going to bring up some karmic-y, denser energies that want to be worked through. It's just kind of the nature of south nodal ecliptic energies. Now, that being said, speaking to the south node, this week, I'll come back to that. Something about Mercury wants to be talked about, but we'll come back to that. In terms of limitation as well, we'll come back. The south node is obviously in Virgo, right? And this week we do have Orcus right on top of the south node in Virgo, and Venus is joining the party. So this week we have Venus in Virgo with Orcus in Virgo with the south node in Virgo. So essentially Venus is opposing the north node, right? And that might be how you're seeing most people speak of it, that Venus is just opposing the north node this week. It's a little bit, there's more to it than that, especially with Orcus being there. And if you're new and you're not familiar with what Orcus is all about, Orcus is very like Plutonian, Neptunian. Orcus is kind of like its own little version of Pluto in a way, but Orcus has more of an emphasis on righting the wrongs. It has more of an emphasis on karmic justice and vengeance and balance. Restoration is a word that's coming through as I'm speaking to that, of things that have been, well, just not okay. Things that have been karmically wrong, divinely wrong, or just unjust or corrupt or what have you. That's what Orcus cares about. So with Orcus being on the south node, out of this south nodal eclipse time, Orcus is basically doing what it does, where it's really adding a lot of pressure and a lot of push to restore and to balance and to make things right, even if it's crunchy, even if it's a little uncomfortable, even if it's difficult. But the beautiful thing about that is there will be balance, there will be justice, there will be restoration, right, where need be. And of course, you know, look to your own charts for where you have Virgo. I would say I would say 15 to 20 degrees Virgo. Whatever you have going on in that house, or any angles or any celestial bodies, there's probably going to be something that comes up this week that directly ties to something that is being given back to you, restored to you, restored for you, within you. But what is being restored is going to have some density and crunchiness right before the restoration takes place, is what I would say. Now, the role of Venus being there, obviously relationships are part of that. Relationships, money, integrity is huge, especially just given that we're talking about Virgo, right? So again, some of this like restoration may come in terms of relationships, may come in terms of money, may come in terms of where you're at with your own integrity. And that's also part of the crunchiness of this too, is like, for some of us, there's going to be this recognition of how to have more integrity in certain, ways. Integrity is such an interesting word, because even as I'm saying it, I can almost feel this like heaviness to it that doesn't need to be there. And maybe it's just something I'm sensing in the collective. Integrity is just, it's consistent authenticity is what I would say to that. It's consistent authenticity. It's consistent honor. It's consistency. It's consistency is really what it is. Right? Consistently holding ourselves to a standard. But that doesn't have to be forced. That doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take away from us to uphold integrity. If anything, it should be nurturing, right? If anything, that should be giving back to ourselves. So maybe this is also something that's coming up in the collective around this week or even today. Maybe what your relationship is to integrity, or how you even, what you even feel with integrity, or how you define it for yourself. Because yeah, I can feel it. There's even a crunchiness every time I say that word of like force, or something that just feels hard, abrasive even. And it's like, integrity is something that can come from a soft place, right? Oh, let me check up on the comments here. Let's see. Integrity is an interesting word. Yes. Just catching up a little bit. Thank you for all you do. Something I miss about Hawaii. Oh, it's good to see you. I feel you. I was thinking about Hawaii a lot yesterday. And everyone has their own little like ties to nature. Like, I think everyone has their own relationship to nature and like what really feels nourishing to them. I mean, y'all know, for me, it's water. I cannot be away from the water. And yeah, there's just something about hearing water and hearing waves. It's just, I don't know. But I want to come back to speaking about limitation in terms of one other thing we got going on this week astrologically. So Mercury is also in Libra this week. And so it is creating a T-square with Jupiter and Chiron in their little square. It's creating a T-square. Essentially, that's two squares in opposition for anybody who's not adept at astrology. And when I was tuning into it, and again, my patrons already know, but when I was tuning into it, it was interesting because with Mercury in Libra, that's a very like diplomatic kind of energy that puts people in a position to prioritize resolution, even order to an extent, charisma, but diplomacy. And what I was getting with that T-square, as some of these old things come up, especially around insecurities, especially around like memories or patterns or really, really old emotions and memories and past stuff that makes us feel insecure or not very capable. And Jupiter's helping us to see that from a bigger perspective, that we don't have to have that limitation. We don't have to have that limitation on ourselves of what's possible. Anything is really possible. We just have to believe that it's possible. We have to believe in ourselves that anything is possible for us. But with Mercury and Libra, I was getting in recent days that like there's also this notion to recognize when we actually need to lean a little bit. I want to be careful with my words here. I think that was a crow. To recognize when diplomacy actually is not necessary, right? There's a fine line there. Especially with like Libra opposing Aries, the self versus others. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, how far is too far leaning into being diplomatic? How far is too far in leaning into just holding the balance and order of things, especially if we are feeling that like vibe of, oh, I can't say this, oh, I can't do this, oh, this is taking it too far, or I can't assert myself in this way. That was definitely not a crow. Hold on a second. You coming back? It almost seemed like a heron. Or heron, however you pronounce it. But it looked also albatrossy. I don't know, there's so many fascinating birds out here. Just watching the water level. Like I said, it is high tide, and I'm very close to the water. That was today's topic with my mentor therapist. He agrees. Let's see. That's where the integrity part rings for me, being too aggressive and agreeable and diplomatic. Yeah, I don't know why I kept wanting to say aggressive. Sometimes it's very necessary to just go there. We feel the energy because it's a natural expression of life. Yes, yes. The heron is a really interesting bird. You guys may be seeing some interesting impromptu content from me in the coming months, maybe even longer than months. But anyway, so with this T-square with Mercury and Libra, yeah, so recognizing where at some point does being too diplomatic or too, even in the shadow version of Libra, people-pleasing, are we engaging in that out of the limitation? Are we engaging in that because we actually just don't feel like we can do XYZ, or we can say XYZ, or that we can't do the harder things, right? Hearing an interesting noise. I just wanted to take a minute to see what that was. Yeah. There's something else there, though. There's something else there that wants to be spoken on with Mercury Libra. This is definitely big relationship energy this week with the nature of Libra, the nature of Cancer, the nature of Venus. In this south nodal energy. Also keeping in mind too, there is a sextile with Lilith and Scorpio with this whole conjunction of Venus, South Node, Orcus, and Virgo. And so it's playing off of the Grand Water Trine a little bit here with all of with Jupiter, Cancer, trine the North Node, and Pisces, trine Lilith and Scorpio. Don't get lost in the lingo if you're not an astrology person. Something else that's interesting with the sextile with Lilith and Scorpio against all this Venusian energy, our own innate desires, our own intuition, our own like primal self even, is giving way to some of this restoration. It's giving way to some of this restoration. And I feel like there's something about that is actually going to help even this like moving beyond certain limitations that may be coming up around Jupiter square Chiron. And again, when I say limitations, it's like self-perceived limitation. I often find, or just believe anyway, that our primal self, like this little Scorpio energy, it's really just a core piece of self. Right? It's our inner animal, if you will. But there's something to be said for that, because there is desire in that. There's like sacred flame energy a little bit in that. And to make more room for that is going to actually, yeah, it's going to allow for some of this like karmic-y restoration through Venus South Nodal energy, and may even help some of this Jupiter square Chiron energy as well. But needless to say, whatever old past shit is coming up, whether it's you're being confronted with it externally or you're just feeling it internally, again, I really want to say there's something about it that feels two very different things here. For some, I feel like it's going to feel like this like almost constipated emotion kind of a thing in terms of how it's coming up. Thank you. They're also saying like disassociation may be part of this too. Like you may start to feel kind of like numb or disassociated as something really, really, really old comes up to the surface. That's for some people, that's not for everybody. Even as I like started speaking on the energy, suddenly it was like, wait, we're like, I just, like felt some of that energy, some of that vibe. It feels very like Four of Cups. Yeah, like disconnect. Oh, that was interesting. That was interesting. That was really interesting. If it's coming up externally, it feels a little bit more, I just keep getting, like, this is what I got with my patrons too, just like glimpses and moments of like, whoa, this is coming up, or whoa, this is happening, or whoa, this is making me feel something. They're showing me the Chariot card. But it is to help you just to see beyond that. Again, beyond limitation. I will also say, I didn't say this in the beginning. Oh, Alchemist, thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let me catch up on the comments a little bit here. So many transits I can never unpoint, which is driving me crazy. Jupiter square Chiron seems very much it. Yeah, so just to reiterate for those who like struggle with transits, to make it very simple for you. For the rest of the year, if you have angles, which are like ascendant, descendant, midheaven, right? Or your rising sign, for those who are not adept at that terminology. If you have any angles or personal planets, 20 to 25 degrees of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, I almost said Scorpio, Capricorn, you're probably going to feel the intensity of this Jupiter square Chiron, probably more than other people. But again, we're having that for the rest of the year. This week, focusing on this week, if you have any angles or personal planets, 15 to 20 degrees of the mutables, prioritizing Virgo, right? Because this is the South Nodal Orcus Venus energy that I'm speaking to. But Virgo, Pisces, and then I would probably prioritize Gemini and then probably Sagittarius. If you have any, again, angles or personal planets in that degree range for those signs, you're really going to feel this like restoration and resolution and karmic balancing justice energy that comes up this week. Now, again, there's going to be some density that leads into that, for sure. There's going to be some crunchiness that leads into that before restoration comes in. But that restoration can be in terms of finances, that can be in terms of relationships, and that can absolutely be in terms of integrity. For some people, that is actually going to be dependent upon integrity, which is also just, you know, a different facet of authenticity and holding yourself to authenticity and integrity is actually going to help to bring in some of that restoration, and leaning into that scorpionic, inner animal, intuitive, passionate, primal energy will also help to facilitate that. Basically honoring all of you, right? And what's authentic to you and what makes you tick and what makes you passionate. I really needed to hear I wasn't just going crazy. No, you're not. You're not. Diana, thank you so much for the $9.99. Thank you. I'm trying so hard not to like tip this over. And my screen is wet, so it's like not letting me do a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Diana. But yeah, I just wanted to share some of that with you guys. The last time I was live, I did have people asking me about like my content and if I was going to go back to doing the old content that I was doing. And so just to kind of like reiterate here, I don't even know if I really went into it in detail, to be honest, in the last live, but there has been a lot that has shifted for me personally this year, and especially the last few months. And it did really get, it's been the whole year, but it got really intense over summer when I felt that need to kind of pull back a little bit, when I needed to kind of pull my energy back to myself. I think it's a plane. and to also like not be live on YouTube. It was a lot of energy exchange, and also I was going through some personal things and some very intense integrations. I love being outside with you guys like this. I do. I think this is like literally how I just want to do shit moving forward. But you know, we are out in the elements, and so there's things I just, you know, gonna have to get used to. So anyway, not doing lives for the time that I haven't been doing them on YouTube, it has been really, really helpful for me in my own process of where I'm at. But I have changed a lot, I've shifted a lot, and my priorities are now different. But also to say, this really matters to me. All of this matters to me. So moving forward, yeah, things are just gonna be a different vibe. Obviously, you guys are still gonna see me hop on here and like talk about current energies, talk about astrology, etc. But you're probably also gonna see me talk about other things. You're probably gonna see me post other things. I posted a nature sounds video like maybe less than a week ago. So I've actually done that in the past. It just hasn't been like a priority for me. And I have playlists of things. And so if you're feeling called to like, you know, come back to my channel for whatever reason, whether it's like, I think there's a message for me, or you just need some like relaxing nature, there are so many playlists to choose from. And actually I started posting nature stuff like maybe 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So like there's a whole playlist there you can check out. But yeah, things have just shifted a lot. And so in terms of like scheduled content, I can't really speak to that, but I know I'm going to be here. I know I will be here. It's just in whatever way is right in the moment is how I will be here. And there's always been a Patreon, and I've still been very much like consistent and entrenched with my patrons and my Rainbow Tribe. With the Rainbow Tribe, the Rainbow Tribe. And that's always a good time. So there's always that too. But just to kind of like let you guys know, like me pulling back was very necessary for myself. Let's see. I love hearing the water and the birds. Yeah. Let me see. Wait, is this? Oh, it's not on. Okay, sorry. I thought it was on live chat. It wasn't. My bad. So I've been missing some of your comments. How far are we talking on old content? Oh, I think I answered that question. Yeah. Have you been experiencing the sacred rage too? So I think that's also some of this older energy. Well, actually, I think that can be either Jupiter square Chiron, or that can be part of this like Orcus energy, because again, Orcus likes vengeance. And especially in Virgo, gives a shit about integrity and what is right and what is sacred. So yeah, sacred rage would not shock me if any of you guys are feeling that. Everyone's gonna experience this in their own unique way, obviously, like I mentioned before. But that just wouldn't shock me. Let's see. Pulling back, good for you. Yeah, and that's the thing too, like ever since Saturn went into Pisces, I think a lot of people are, well, okay, no, I'm gonna take that back. Some people I think are feeling more of that call to go really within, to clean up their fields, which I actually think is very important. I think that's also why I'm feeling the need to like just honor the flow of what feels right to share with all of you in any given moment, even if it's just a little sit down with nature. Are we going here right now? I don't know if it's necessary to go here right now. This is okay, so what I'm about to say is not new. What I'm about to say is stuff that a lot of you are already know and already aware of. But there comes a point in anyone's healing journey. Well, I'm not going to say that. For some people, I'm trying to be so girl with my words here. For some people, there comes a point in your healing journey, in your spiritual journey, etc. Just with evolution in and of itself, where there is a real need to honor your own compass over other things, right? Over the external. And we've been in a space for a while now where things have become so loud, so noisy in the collective, and especially through social media and what have you. And I think Pluto being in Aquarius has been part of this too, where it just has created a lot of noise for a lot of people, unnecessary noise, to the point where people are having a hard time really hearing themselves and really feeling themselves, really being connected to just like the untainted self, if you will. And so I do think it is, yeah, I think that's just something that some people are really feeling these days, especially since Saturn went back into Pisces, of, yeah, just really pulling back and really going within, and again, cleaning up our fields, cleaning up our own minds, if you will. And also with the noise that's out here on social media, no matter like what niche you're following, whether it's politics or spirituality or whatever, where a lot of the noise also seems to be rooted in, like, how do I want to say this? Well, yeah, like pushing people or encouraging people or enabling people to get out of their own compass, really, to get out of their own truth. And whether you want to say, like, you know, fear mongering is obviously a part of that, but it's not always in the realm of fear mongering. Sometimes it's also in the realm of like, this is an absolute truth, or this is what's happening, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. And I know we all know, and I know we're all aware, and some people are getting so sensitive to it that like they can't even stomach it, they can't even tolerate it. Some people are just feeling the call to like to step back a little bit, and if you're feeling that, you're feeling that. If you're not, you're not. But you know, every once in a while I like to put this little message out there as a little PSA to just always be mindful about what you're consuming, what you're listening to, what you're buying into, what you're allowing to override your own compass, right? And I also say, even over here on this channel, like, I try my best to be, what's a good word for that? I try my best to just offer what I'm observing, what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling, but I try my best to not speak about it in terms of an absolute truth, because we're all in different places, we all believe different things, right? And I just try to share whatever feels helpful at the time. And also to say, some of these people are doing, you know, are trying to do that as well, just like trying to come from good intentions and come from a good place. And I don't think any of these people are like bad people per se, but I do think there is a fine line. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think there's a fine line between open sharing and, I want to say, and projecting. I think that's a good word. Projecting. I was forcing it with trying to get on social media. The people will be there. Soon AI noise on social media, aka AI slop. God, that's the other thing too. I like the oh, all the AI ads. One, they're just bad. They're just so obviously AI. But yeah, it feels very cluttered and very littered, and obviously there's like been channels that have been popping up too for a while now that are just like pure AI, and that's like, I don't know, that's such a weird thing to me. It's just a trippy thing to me. And obviously, like, you know, just like anything, there could be helpful benefits to any form of technology, but there can also be a lot of pitfalls, obviously. Yeah, over the next 20 years, it's going to get worked out. It's part of Pluto and Aquarius. It absolutely is part of Pluto and Aquarius. And actually, okay, I will say this one thing before I go, because I'm starting to feel the natural shift. There's a lot on my plate today. So again, I also spoke about this on the Patreon Weekly. This like global reordering that we've already been like feeling and witnessing, but I feel like for the next, how long is Uranus and Gemini for? Actually, I feel like that's going to lean into Uranus and Cancer too, to be honest. Shoots, I can't remember. Anyway, So while Uranus is in Gemini and Pluto is in Aquarius, at least speaking to this, and again, I feel like when Uranus goes into Cancer, this is still going to be part of what I'm about to speak on here. Again, just my lens. It doesn't have to be absolutely true, but Uranus and Gemini is like local, right? Local community, friends and information and learning and all that stuff, communication. But it's usually centered around like local level. Aquarius is more the macro. Aquarius is more like humanity, right? Aquarius is more international kinds of things. So we have like two very strong long-term generational planets that are in two signs that have to do with how we connect and communicate, how we human with each other, essentially, on the local level and the macro level, both all about facilitating change, right? And not exactly easy change. And so, and I'm sure there have been many people who've spoken about this already, but Spirit was really bringing my attention to this last week, just about in terms of like, I think where some of this energy is starting to get kicked up a little bit, like more awareness on this energy. So it is absolutely facilitating like a global reordering of sorts, and where it's not just about like, sorry, so much wants to be said in this little topic. So much. Obviously there's a lot of like eyes on the Western world in terms of like what people are perceiving as destructive shifts, dismantling shifts. It's just change. I mean, you know, change is just change. It's just what it is, no matter how it's happening. But those are not the only places where big change is happening, right? There are a lot of countries that are going through a lot of massive change right now. Like change is global, like change is not in a vacuum. And I think there are some influences, whether you want to say media or whatever, that are almost like spinning that illusion a little bit, that like these massive changes into how we human, into how we connect with each other, also obviously economically too, but how we are connected, how we live amongst each other, That's really what's coming through with this. How we live amongst each other and how we see the world. That like these big massive shifts are only happening in certain specific spots. And I just don't believe that. I just don't see that. I just don't feel that. I think it's everywhere. I think it's truly everywhere. Now, how that's happening could be very different place to place, right? And with my patrons, I was speaking to like this whole like expat situation in certain cities, that I feel like we are definitely starting to see. I want to be careful with my words here. Well, cause and effect, really, cause and effect of expats that are that have been getting concentrated in certain cities around the world, and the economic impacts that's having on those local communities. And it's just going to keep happening. You know, there are going to be new cities that come up as like the next place to be, and their economy is going to fluctuate big time with housing, with costs, with quality of life, and then also displacing people. And so I'm very curious to see too, like in the next like 2 to 3 years, I'm hearing 5 too, 2, 3, 5 years, how that is going to affect the kind of the global picture of things, of how we all live amongst each other. And I do think this is helping to get people in the places that are truly best for them. But I also think it is going to help to really reveal the true illusion that we are not separate, right? Or that we are separate. That's the illusion, that we are separate. That just because you live in another country doesn't mean that we don't impact each other, but we do impact each other, right? And I think that's going to become very, very evident in a way that just cannot be denied in the coming years. And so I'm hoping, my hope anyway, my hope is that it's going to eventually lead into recognizing the importance of literally every single country needing to be on the same page, in terms of what is best for just humanity, what's just best for like living a happy, healthy life, and getting away from some of these older ways of how we've operated on the global international scale, of separate, but yeah, we have these kind of pseudo relationships, and yeah, we don't really like each other, or we're too different, or war, whatever, like resources, whatever. I'm hoping that in the midst of some upheavals, some drastic changes in cities that haven't really seen it to this extent that it's starting to happen, that, yeah, we just eventually get to a point where all of us just like literally have to start truly cooperating in the way that is truly best for everybody on this planet. I'm hoping that that's what it leads to, even if it takes 20 years to make it happen. But Uranus and Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius is absolutely part of that. And I know a lot of astrologers also like to kind of hone in on the fact that Uranus and Gemini has been associated with like a lot of big wars. And it has, but there's also been other big wars that have happened that aren't associated with that at all. And I spoke about this maybe a month ago or so, and I may do a video on it, probably not, to be honest with you. But I think Pluto being an Aquarius makes it interesting and makes it unique, amongst other things that we have going on. But when Uranus goes into Cancer, I think that that's going to be part of the energy too. Because Cancer cares about connection, and it is that like heart-to-heart connection. So, yeah. And Pluto will definitely still be an Aquarius when Uranus goes into Cancer. So, yeah, that's my hope anyway for the next 20 years. We'll see what happens. Hold on. We are not separate and people don't realize that. What's happening? Oh, so there are certain cities that have been very, very, very popular for expats. And when I say expats, I'm speaking specifically to expats from like the Western world, like Canada, United States, the UK, like that's mostly what I'm speaking to. And, you know, especially when COVID happened, the expat community, I hate to say trend, but it kind of feels like that's what it's become. And no shade, like if you're an expat, hey, cool, kudos to you. Like I said before, I feel like it is helping people to find like where they feel truly at home, and I think that's really important. I think it's important the world gets a little mixy. I do think that's very vital, that like we all get to know each other. We all get to like know these different cultures and different places. Like we're all on this planet together, and at this point the world is so connected and the world is like smaller because of that. Like we might as well like, right, just start recognizing that we're not separate and like kind of be open to that kind of level of mixiness and connection. But anyway, but what is happening is, in this whole like expat trend that's been happening these last few years, again, it's been skyrocketing. There's always been expats, but like ever since 2020 especially, it's really taken off. You know, people want better quality of life. Like people want to live cheaper, people want to live healthier, and that's totally valid. That's why all this is happening. But what's the unfortunate consequence that I've just been observing and reading about in some of these prominent cities, like Lisbon is on the list. Mexico City is a big one. Mexico City is a big example of this. What's another one? There's quite a few. It's like, it's all escaping me right now. But the countries that have been impacted, like Thailand's been impacted. Costa Rica is definitely starting to get impacted by this. Malaysia, I think, is going to start to get impacted by this. Anyway, you can always read about this. But anyway, as these expats come in, it is shifting the economy, right? Because they're bringing in outside money into these places, and they're living, you know, lavishly compared to locals, and the local governments are facilitating that. They're actually enabling it. So what's happening is people are getting priced out. Like the housing markets are actually shifting dramatically to where people are getting displaced. Whole neighborhoods are changing, and then because of that, there's also like resentment that's starting to take place. And now we're at the point where some of these cities are actually asking expats to leave and to go back. And then now, because there's this, how do I want to say, this unpleasant shift in some of these places, some of these expats are also looking to new cities, right? And new countries to go to and try to like live this whole expat way of life, where you do save a lot of money and you do have better access to healthcare and all of that, but you do shift the economy if you have enough people flooding in to do this. And it just creates tensions, it creates imbalance, and again, it creates economic fluctuations that these countries haven't seen before. And so yeah, it's disruptive. It is disruptive. But that's kind of my point of what I was getting at. Like, it's a disruption that I think over time, if it starts to happen more and more and more and more, it's just going to get to the point where like we all got to be on the same page. It's like, right? We all got to be on the same page. Yeah, I hope that feels like the question's been answered. Like I said, I'm starting to get to that space where I do need to kind of hop off here. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little ungrounded. Yeah, Spain is a huge one. That's why we left Mexico. Yeah, and it's kind of sad too, because it's like, and this isn't just like one city. Like, this is happening in very prominent expat cities where you'll see graffiti that says this used to be my neighborhood and like things like that. And it's like, it's totally reasonable for local people to be upset about that, and for their local governments to be exacerbating the problem. And the other thing too for expats is like, because these cities are starting to recognize that their economies are starting to get disrupted in ways that they were not ready for, they are trying to make it harder, and they're trying to make it more expensive. And so then some expats are getting a little upset that like they're having to pay so much more money to be an expat, and then they end up having to come back. Which, you know, again, it's part of disruption. It's part of disruption. Yeah. And again, I have noticed that certain countries are being talked about in terms of like putting a new focus on like, oh, well, we can go here now. Cambodia is definitely one. Panama is definitely one. Nicaragua, that's definitely one. A lot of South American countries. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over time. See. And flooding economies can be good if it's intentional and benefits the natives. Right, exactly. Like, there's a way to do it to where it's not so disruptive, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. And I mean, let's be real, right? It's like the system is not sustainable. It never has been. And I feel like the way that some of these countries have been kind of like opening their doors and then suddenly realizing like, oh my God, why did we open the door in this way? Is also just a consequence of realizing like this is what happens with this kind of system. It's not sustainable. It's not. And I feel like there's also this like illusion too that it's controllable, and it's not. It's like, at least I don't think it is. I don't think it's anything any one government can have full control over and like maintain homeostasis and stability across the board for decades. Like, I just don't think that that's possible with how it's set up. Yeah. So anyway, I think Spirit is leading us back to a factory reset for how life was intended to be lived. There's too much coming to light about how our ancient world lived more in harmony with nature and each other. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I heard something. It's a rainy day, so I figured people wouldn't be out here, but you never know. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And like I was saying on Patreon too the other day, it's like a big part of this problem too is that expats, they, not all, but some, the trend anyway, is to push a lavish lifestyle. Is to push luxury, which nothing wrong. Like, hey, do your thing. If you like luxury, you like luxury. I'm not gonna hate on you for that. I'm not gonna yuck your yum if you like luxury. But if you have enough expats trying to live that luxurious lifestyle, like on the cheap, right? Then these countries are just gonna keep trying to give more and more and more and more of that available to people who are willing to pay for it, and locals aren't willing to pay for it because they're not coming in with this like with this foreign money, right? It's like they're used to living at a certain level and standard that is like not that, right? And it's just it's just exacerbating the problem. That's a huge part of it. It's like how many expats are trying to like live exactly how like the locals live, right? And that's the other thing too. It's like you see mostly cities getting pushed, like big cities getting pushed. Like, you're not seeing the countrysides getting pushed. You're not seeing people living on the outskirts, right? It's like you're seeing mostly expats talking about living very luxuriously in these big cities. That's part of the problem. Even ancient temples behaved more like acupuncture points to maintain harmony. I think they're all going to go back to their own dollar as well. Like, it's not going to be cheap anymore. Right, exactly. And again, I believe everyone should be able to live in the way that is happy and healthy for them and in harmony with others. I think we can all agree that that's like ideal. that is ideal, in whatever way that actually sustainably works. And I'm not saying I have it figured out. I'm not saying that. But we know what doesn't work. We know what doesn't work. Yeah. Oh, rain's coming in harder. I know you'd be live today. The price gouging is incredible. We don't want to pay more. They see expats and automatically raise the price. Yeah. 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 And I'm not justifying it, but there's a reason they're doing that. Because there is more money, right? From expats versus like people on the local level, depending on the country and city you're speaking about. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. But I should hop off. Yeah, the rain's coming in really hard. I probably should hike back. But it was cool to see all of you. Thank you for the super chats. And I hope that this video and information has supported you for today and hopefully for the week. And I'll give you guys a quick little view of what I'm looking at before I go. But again, thank you guys so much. Again, it's the spot I've been chilling at for the last couple lives. Lots of love, thank you. Oh yeah. Let's see. So many people want to go to the cities. Yeah. Yeah. They're trying to live a very specific lifestyle, which I get. And again, I'm not judging anyone for that. Like, people should live the way they want to live, but it's just a matter of recognizing like what is truly in harmony and balance and where you're going and what's not. You can probably hear all the like seals and sea lions way out there at the buoy. Let's see. Sending you love. Thank you. It's been lovely as always. Thank you, Lola Bear. Oh, you're welcome, CJ. That's an amazing view. Yeah, it is. It really is. Okay, yeah, I really gotta go. I'm getting soaked. Okay, bye guys. Take care. Have a good Monday. See you.